Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly present our spectacular show of podcast magic and imagination full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn Dave and David Dollar.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dave.
It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast. Quick question. Do you think now, okay, so we the way I run the podcast, so I run it through a website and it kind of that's hosting, and I'm able to go and look at stats, and that's how I know our download numbers and everything or whatever. And I can see the countries that we've been downloaded on. We're actually fairly big in Russia and in France. We've got I say following, not like thousands of people, a couple hundred people in here. Portugal, we've got a couple listeners there. Norway, things like that. We have yet to have anybody in Antarctica download our podcast
really?
that I know of. Now, somebody might have streamed it, but
yeah.
not yet. But we're getting there. And the reason I
So
mentioned
no
that,
penguins. Okay,
no penguins,
got it.
not yet.
All right,
not
yet.
yet.
Okay,
Not yet.
okay.
And I mentioned Antarctica because we have a really special guest coming up and a really great conversation coming up, all about going to Antarctica, which to me is, pardon the pun, very cool. Very, very cool.
Oh my gosh.
So, Jen, who's joining us today?
Well, joining us today is your grand boss.
My grand boss,
Your
yes.
grand boss and our business development manager, Marcy Dinkfeld. She just got back from Antarctica. We love Marcy. Hey, Marcy.
Hi, Marcy.
Hi, guys.
So
Welcome to the
excited to be here.
show. Welcome to the show.
Excited to
Okay,
have you.
Top question. How did you Disney this week, Marcy?
Oh my gosh. You guys, this is such a funny question for me because we started watching the show before we left, but since we've been back, we're watching it like crazy. So we're watching Continent 7 on Disney Plus.
Oh my gosh.
We just watched 3 straight episodes in the last 3 days. We're so into it. So
That's awesome.
if you haven't seen it yet, tune in. It's so cool.
I don't even know what that is. Is that the one with Chris Hemsworth?
So
Am I making that up?
It's just about life of people who are living either short-term or long-term on the white continent, Antarctica.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Oh, yes,
Oh,
I see that.
that's so
Continent 7
cool.
Antarctica on Disney Plus. Oh, interesting. Experience how science is conducted as scientists and survival expert join forces in Antarctica. This is going to be a great conversation because I am so fascinated by this entire topic. This is gonna be really chill. But Jen, how did you Disney this week?
Oh, this one's easy. So this week I packed for a Disney trip, which, at the time of this recording, I may or may not have been on,
Right.
by the time you guys are hearing it, but I literally am packing currently. So
Behind the curtain for the listener, when you podcast and you have a podcast that goes weekly, sometimes you have to kind of quote unquote batch episodes, kind of put a few together because there are times Jen's going to be out of town later on this week. I'll be out of town the first week of February. So we've kind of had to play a little funny with the schedule to make sure that we don't miss a week. So when you're hearing this episode, there's a chance I'm actually going to be on the cruise while Jen will have been back from her trip about a week or so. Or I might be going on the cruise next week and Jen is on her trip now. I don't really know for sure, but this is going to be airing the next couple weeks or so. We're recording sometime in late January, the 23rd of January. So we'll get this up pretty soon. So we're not going to do a whole lot of Disney news and topical things because we don't exactly know what might happen, but that's what happens in podcasting. All of your favorite podcasts do it. I promise you this. Promise you this. So for me, I have been getting ready for my Wish trip on the Disney Wish in February. I finally checked in. Which I am my own worst travel agent. I should have checked in like a week and a half ago, and I finally checked in this time, which is fine. You have to do your boarding time, which I think my boarding time is now like 1:30. I think if I checked in earlier, it would have been like 11 or something, but I don't really know.
But if you use Disney Cruise Line transportation, whenever you arrive, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's really good because I'm going to try to get there kind of early because I'm staying off of the airport and I'm going back to the airport. And this is okay. So I've walked clients through this and guests through this process because I've kind of read up and I know how to do it and talk to people, but I've never done it myself. It's been since 2004 since I've kind of done any of this, and everything has changed because I don't know if you've noticed or not. Disney has changed some since 2004, and so same thing with cruises a little bit. And so I'm getting to walk this entire process, which is really exciting for me. I'm kind of cool going through all this and this is I'm ready. I'm ready to go on a cruise, but not as fun as it's going to be going to flip it Antarctica. And so okay. So to set this up, Marcy,
you
of course,
didn't ask Marcy how she Disneyed this
I
week.
did.
Did
I
you?
asked her first.
Oh,
The
that's right.
continent.
You did start with her.
That's right.
Okay.
Jen's like, when is he going to say my name? I'll just wait. I'll just listen.
Oh
in
my
and see if I-
gosh. Yeah. ADD moment. There's a cute dog outside.
Yeah. Squirrel. So to set this up, of course, Marcy is one of the development business manager, whatever. I don't even know the title. You've said it before, and
Business
I can't
development
remember,
manager.
But she's that for Disney. Now, the misnomer is that we work for Disney. Jen and I do not work for Disney. We work with Disney. We work under Marcy. We're connected with Marcy because she's, she kind of oversees a lot of what we do with Disney. But Marcy is this wonderful, fantastic, amazing person who is in every travel agency kind of has somebody like Marcy over their agency. Over
Not
a
as
group
cool
of
as Marcy, but
not as cool as
somebody
Marcy at all, because I've heard
God,
people
so
say your business development manager does this. Where I'm like, don't they all? No, they don't. That's amazing. So Marcy is fantastic. We've had new agents that have told me, like, I can't believe Marcy does this. She's so amazing. She's so great. So we love Marcy. We really, really do. For anybody listening, Josh, I know you're listening. We love Marcy. We do.
Yeah.
We do. But you got the chance to go to Antarctica on an Adventures by Disney trip. Jen, I'm gonna ask you real quick. Pitch meeting. What is it? What is Adventures by Disney? Kind of set it up for the listener. What is that?
Adventures by Disney is like a premium VIP experience to go to multiple destinations all over the world. It's a guided, they do have private options, but guided small group vacations, curated specifically for storytelling and to really immerse yourself in the culture and the fun of whichever area you are going to. That's my elevator spiel for it.
I like it. And places like China, places like Europe, river cruises, in North America, Nashville has a weekend.
South
America, a long weekend. Southern
Yeah.
California with Disneyland, South America, they're Australia, they're all over the world in so many different places. And I feel like every time a new batch of ABD comes up, there's new locations they can go to. And it's you're working with Disney. You're not working with Al's Bait Shop, who's going to take you around in a white van to show you and point things out to you, and stay in a sketch hotel that you're gonna have to put a garbage bag over the pillow because you don't know, right? But this is Disney. This is Disney's name, and they go to Antarctica. And so this is what we're going to bring. We're going to talk about. And so setting all this up, Marcy, how in the world did Antarctica for you and your daughter come about? How did this even happen for you?
And what a great opportunity, right? So as a business development manager, we have the opportunity to go on some of these trips from time to time to experience them, bring back the information to all of our travel partners who are so amazing, like yourselves, and also to our team. So that was my job, and it was an incredible opportunity. Amazing that I got to bring my 12-year-old daughter, Rory.
So cool.
Hi, Rory.
So cool. Like, talk about the greatest mother-daughter trip. Like, normally it's Walt Disney World for the weekend. But this opportunity came up, and we decided it was a great thing for her to do. And of course, I had to fill out some forms for school because she had to miss 6 days. And Jen knows all about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't believe how much like the administrators and the teachers were like, of course you can do it. Like, don't worry about anything. Meanwhile, my girl took her Chromebook with her. There's Wi-Fi available. But it was an incredible experience, and she did learn so much. And it was an amazing opportunity. It kind of came out quickly, and of course I had to go on to Amazon and order some base layers and some waterproof pants and things that you need for an Antarctic packing trip. And we did, and we decided to go a day early. So we flew from Pittsburgh to Atlanta. From Atlanta, we flew to Buenos Aires, and we spent 2 nights in Buenos Aires, which is an amazing capital city. I mean, Argentina is beautiful. I had no idea how beautiful it is, but that city is so vibrant. It's kind of like a New York of South America. Like, beautiful city, big, spread out, and so much to do. The food is amazing. The exchange rate was great. We stayed at the Sofitel there, and that was a beautiful hotel in a great part of the city. And of course, you guys will love this one. I had Rory watch Evita the week before we left.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I'm sitting here going, what's new? Buenos Aires.
There you go. Don't cry for me, Argentina. So she knew about the history. So for her to see the Pink Palace and where Eva Peron came out, like,
my God.
unbelievable stuff.
So cool.
Yeah. So the history there, we went to the cemetery, we got to see her resting place. So even just spending time in Buenos Aires was part of the adventure. So we did spend 2 wonderful days there. We did a hop on, hop off bus.
Oh,
We
yeah.
ate empanadas, so delicious.
I love empanadas.
So fun. And the day of, it was December 30th when everybody on the trip met, and we all flew early in the morning from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, the very end, South America. Beautiful, beautiful little port town. And that's where Patagonia is. So we got to tour the Tierra del Fuego National Park on a train. Beautiful.
Wow.
We had lunch in the park. It is so neat. I mean, you really are at the end of the world. Patagonia, the brand, you know, when you see that brand and you see it on someone's coat, you see the mountains. Those are the mountains, like you see, and they're so
there's
pretty.
actual mountains that look like the mountains.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
On the coast.
And
So
looking at
nice.
Argentina map, Patagonia is basically as far south on South America as you can go before you leave South America. It's like at the bottom of the entire continent.
Holy gross.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the Adventures by Disney map, actually, kind of plane that flies through. And it's like a 17-hour flight from Atlanta to Buenos Aires, by the way. I was just looking at that. And so.
Worth it.
Yeah. Oh,
It
yeah,
was
definitely.
like 10 with a 2-hour time change. So
Okay.
10 or 11-hour flight. I think it was maybe 11. And then, but you fly overnight. So we left there at 9 o'clock at night and we landed at like 9 a.m. with a 2-hour time change.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't bad because you sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
Shoot. Yeah.
So
I mean, sleep half the time. That's good.
Yeah.
Population of 15.5 million, which is, you know,
Big.
I feel like there are some travel agencies out there that have that many people, but still. Anyway.
It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And when we were in Ushuaia, that was actually, it was a Sunday and it was New Year's Eve.
Oh.
So that was fun. And we spent the night on the ship, but docked at Ushuaia. So New Year's Eve was on the ship. And it was so cool because at midnight, the entire harbor, and there are ships from all over the world in this harbor, they're all making noise and honking, and you saw fireworks in the distance. It was so pretty.
Oh.
So it was really cool. And the next day, you head off through the Drake Passage to Antarctica, which is so fun.
That is awesome. So yeah,
I definitely want to talk about the Drake Passage because that's what, like, I knew nothing about this even existing until, of course, we all met for our agency retreat in December, and you talked about the Drake Lake versus the Drake Shake. And so I'm like, this is amazing to me. All of this, you know, and I know you said Rory was looking for the Drake Shake, but thankfully she didn't get that. So Drake Passage, it's the passage, obviously, from the end of South America to Antarctica, to the area.
Yeah.
What is our Drake Shake? What is a Drake Lake? What are we talking about here?
So great question. The Drake Lake means it's going to be smooth sailing the whole way. And you sail for 2 days. And if you get the lake, you're actually going to get there earlier. If you get the Drake Shake and it's wavy and turbulent, your ship's going to do this. So it's going to take a little longer to get there. So we were blessed. We had the Drake Lake going down, which was wonderful because that's your day that you're on the ship and you're doing things. So we were fitted for our parka on that day. We were fitted for our boots because you have to wear their boots to go on Antarctica. So careful about making sure that no germs, anything, are brought onto the continent. So much that when you're going off of the ship, getting onto your Zodiac, you have to go through disinfectant and clean your boots. And your boots you use while you're on the ship. Your parka you actually get to keep and bring home. Which is so funny. It snowed today and Rory wore her parka to school today, and I'm sure everybody was like, oh, that's so cool. But you go through a lot of training to learn all about how to be careful about what we bring onto the continent. So much that there's even a session where you vacuum your rain pants and make sure nothing is on it. Anything that you're bringing onto the continent, you have to like clean off before you can
like a vacuum cleaner, like a little
tons of vacuum cleaners in the lounge, and the naturalists are helping you vacuum your stuff. That's how much care is put into everything with the environment when it comes to visiting Antarctica. Yeah,
that's so cool. And then so you're getting on a Zodiac, and how many people will go on like one of the Zodiacs? It can't be the whole boat.
No, because you can only have so many people at a time.
Yeah.
So we made it through the Drake Lake. There's a little
Mhm.
celebration. We made it through the Drake Passage. That was really kind of
Well,
fun.
let me stop you for a second because
Oh, sure.
you said turbulent waters. You said it gets kind of rough.
It does.
That doesn't do it justice at all. That's like saying, from the videos I've seen, that's like saying, oh, New York City at Times Square, it's kind of busy. No, what the videos I've seen, like if it gets rocky and crazy, like the waves are crashing over the boat. There are people in their rooms videoing with the water just smashing into the windows. And obviously this might be the worst case scenario, but like, and people are just on the boat, like, yeah, sure, it's the Drake quake, Drake shake. We just push through it and be fine. Like, you know, when we were all watching that video in our little meeting, half the room was like terrified, and I'm like, that's amazing. Let's do it. Let's go. So yeah,
that's what Rory
it's,
wanted. Thankfully,
yeah.
we didn't get anything like that. So because we watched the videos in advance too, and I was like,
Right.
not so sure how I'm going to do. And I will tell you, I was very prepared. We brought the funny glasses, like the little goggles that have like, I had those. They have the liquid in them. $6 on Amazon if anyone's interested. I brought ginger chews. I brought Mentos, boning, and the sea bands.
Okay.
I had it all. Thankfully, didn't need it. Going there was smooth sailing, to say the least. So much so that we got there early and we were able to do our first landing that afternoon, which we weren't planning on doing.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So that was amazing. So yeah, on the way there, we were just doing activities, and that's where the adventure guides come into play. Jenn mentioned the adventure guides, and she's been on Adventures by Disney trips and knows how important these guides are.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
And they're so fun. So they bring the fun.
Yes.
And a lot of people have asked me, I didn't realize that Disney had a ship that can go to Antarctica. And the answer is we don't. What we do is we charter Penant's ship. Penant is a French company that has expedition sailing vessels that are luxury, to say the least, like very high end, white glove, the nicest people in the entire world.
Oh.
And there were only 160 guests on board and about 160 crew members. So talk
oh my
about
gosh.
like,
that's like 1-to-1.
We got to know, it's so fun because you get to know the guests, but you get to know the crew, and they're from all over the world, and several.
That's less than the queue of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train on a busy Magic Kingdom day. Seriously, like that is seriously like that's not a lot of people. That's amazing.
It's not a lot of people at all. But like Jenn said, you still, not everybody can go on land at one time.
Sure.
So we're put into 3 groups, and our group was probably, I don't know, maybe 50 people in each group, like you're color coded. And when they'll say, red group, please come to the lounge, you put on your parka that you get to keep. You put on your life vest that is only yours to use during, and it's not really like it's little. It's like suspenders kind of, but somehow they're able to do something amazing. If you were to fall in the water, thankfully we didn't know. Nope, we didn't have to figure out if they worked or not. So you had to have that on, and you had to have your parka on to go onto the continent. So if it got hot, you could take it off and like hold it, but you still had to have that thing on. So, and of course your boots and sanitized. But they call you, you bring your boots to the lounge, you go down in the lounge, you stick your boots on, you go out the back door, which is on deck 3, walk down, you're on a big platform in the back of the ship, and that's where your Zodiac, and they have so many people from Penant helping you. Like, I remember thinking, like, I'm kind of nervous getting on this like Zodiac in the middle of the ocean. It's not like they're there to help you, and they show you the proper way to do it. So we attended a lot of briefings on board the ship to tell you about not only the environment, but the safety. When we first got on, we had our life vest drill. Like, there's a lot about safety, and they want to make sure everyone is completely safe, and they did such a good job. But they'll tell you like how you're going to hook arms with the guy when you're getting on the Zodiac. It's not just like you just jump on. There's a whole thing. You have to get on, you have to slide down. They're super careful.
It's not like the Jungle Cruise where they just have the hand out in case you needed getting on off the ship. Got it.
Yes. Which is right by Aladdin's Flying Carpet, David.
Of course, it is. Which is one of my favorite rides. I know that Jenn hates it. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
You know. She also hated Illuminations too, but I mean, what can you do? So.
I couldn't wait for that to come up. It's amazing how we both put that in there. So you get on your Zodiac, and there's, I would say, 10 people on a Zodiac, along with the driver and naturalist, and you go and you make a landing. And the first landing we did was at Deception Island. And it was like we landed on the moon, because it wasn't like you picture flat snow. It wasn't.
Right.
It was more like volcanic rock. And it is
Oh.
just dark gravel. And that was our first landing. And it was so cool because the adventure guides think about everything. And as people were getting off their Zodiac, you're holding up a sign that said what continent you were on. Because we had some people, including a grandma who was the sweetest lady, that was her 7th continent. So when she put her feet on that continent, you know, she stood up and they gave her the sign that she hit her 7th continent.
She completed a lifetime bucket list. That's amazing.
That's so cool.
She was on with her son and granddaughter. And they were such a fun family. But yeah, they all went because this was grandma's 7th continent.
I love it.
That is incredible.
So cool. Yeah, it was really neat. So I mean, for us, Roy's like, it's my 3rd. Like, you did 2 on this trip. So
well, I mean, that makes sense because you knock out 2 continents in one trip,
and then
all I gotta do is fly to Australia, hit Japan, and fly over to Europe, and you've got just about everything knocked out. So yeah, I like it.
Now she wants to like be all in. So yeah.
So I guess you're taking more trips.
I'm guaranteed. Yeah. So much for paying for college. We're just going to pay for trips.
I mean, honestly, if I'm going to Rory's school, my goal is to be Rory's best friend because she's somebody who went to Antarctica and I want to be her friend and I want to hang out with her at lunch. Like I want to hear Antarctica stories and tell me about penguins. How is she not the coolest kid in her school? Seriously.
I think she got a lot of attention when she
That's a lot of cred right there.
I
mean,
she
seriously.
She had a lot of cred.
Buffy's like, I went to the mall, and Mary Elizabeth's like, oh, well, we went to Grandma's house, so down the road. Corey's like, well, you know, I went to Antarctica. No big deal. No biggie.
It's crazy. And when you think about like, when I first started thinking about, I'm going to Antarctica, I got to learn more about it. And I joined a couple Facebook groups about people who travel to Antarctica. And I'm like, you know, people don't really bring kids here.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
Adventures by Disney, it's a great way to do it. So she did. She loved every minute of it. You know, once we hit our first landing, the naturalists are there to tell you where you can go, where you can't go, what to look out for. Meanwhile, there's like penguins on the beach. And all you want to do is, hold on, I want to take pictures of the penguins. The naturalists are like, come here, you have to hear this first.
Right.
Of where you can go, where you can't go. And they'll tell you, like, we have a hike that is, you know, up here and around here, and it's not too strenuous. And then we have another one for those people who are adrenaline junkies and really like to hike and want to get sweaty. Yes, you do get sweaty in Antarctica. Then they'll tell you, you're going to go up here, go there. So it was fun. And there were times when I didn't do like the sweaty hike, but she did. And she just went with our friends and we made friends. And it was so fun because we just meet you on the beach. So, and I could stand and watch penguins all day long. So that was more like my thing than to hike. But a lot of people ask, like, wasn't it freezing cold? No, it actually wasn't. It is summer there, but it's Antarctica.
Right.
And it was like 30s, 40s. There was one day that was almost like 50 degrees. It was so beautiful.
I thought it would be way worse than that.
Well, I was looking at the current temperature right now. It's 42 degrees on King George Island, which is right in that area, that peninsula.
Colder than that in Pittsburgh.
So obviously, when you think Antarctica,
it's warmer than Pittsburgh.
You think sub-zero temperatures. The South Pole, which I know you guys were not close to because Antarctica is a big place. It's a continent. South Pole right now is registering around 27, so a balmy, you know, weather temperature there. But you guys are on the edge of Antarctica, so it's like 40 degrees. Right now in Birmingham, it's 45. So, I mean, it's like it was colder this morning than it was in Antarctica, which is crazy.
It's hard to believe. But another thing that I didn't even realize is that the sun didn't set when we were there until about 11 o'clock. And sunrise was at 2 a.m. So you only had 3 hours of darkness. And it wasn't even really that dark because it would just stay that like beautiful glow outside.
Right.
Oh.
It was so beautiful to like be able to see the majesty that you can see like music like behind us. It's crazy. It was so totally beautiful, so peaceful. You breathe in the air and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, is this like the cleanest air on the planet? And I kind of think it might be.
Well,
I mean, there's really no emissions down there. There's nothing to No.
You mentioned how they cleaned you off to make sure that you brought no germs or anything on there, and you also were not allowed to bring any kind of food or anything too, right? Like
Oh
nothing. You could
no.
not bring anything on the island.
Oh no. Like they suggested like don't even bring a backpack unless you have like special camera equipment that you
Hmm.
want to use. We brought not like we had pockets in our parka that if you wanted to take your sunglasses off and you stuck them in your
Mm-hmm.
pockets, the pockets were great because they were
Hmm.
like, I don't need a backpack. I just had all
Right.
these pockets. They think of everything. Even on our wrists, we had a clear little pouch that you put your like your room key,
Hmm.
which they scan getting on and off the ship, so you don't have to worry about like finding it. You just put up your arm and they scan you on and off the ship. That was
Huh.
I think of everything.
So they want to make sure you don't drop anything as well, like room key or a phone or something you might need. Make sure you just
Oh
drop it or something
no,
like that.
yeah,
So,
no dropping. You
Mm.
can't like they don't want anybody like sitting down in the snow.
mhm.
Like
Right.
it's there's so much to it and so much to keep it the most pristine place on the
Right.
earth. And I love the fact that they were so careful with
I love
everything.
that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
And there were
important.
times when you did get off and you're on a landing and you're hiking somewhere and you're looking at penguin colonies and
Hmm.
of course then your boots would be like smelled like penguin. But then when you came back on, you're cleaning them like
Hmm.
it was wild. Like
Well,
there's a
like
lot of care.
when you go to Universal, you
Yeah.
have to put stuff in a locker before you get on Rip Ride Rocket. And Jen was wondering if there are like lockers and stuff on the island that you would put all your stuff in, but I guess not. I
Oh,
guess you just leave everything on the. That makes sense. Makes sense. So
yeah, that
well,
was
I
my
mean, they want you
question.
down on those rides to make sure you don't bring anything like keys or anything that could fall out. So that makes sense. What? Let's talk about the dress. I know that you said it was some it was almost 50 or whatever. What are you bundling up, and what was it at, like late at
Mhm.
night? Was there a cold period of the day like there is
Yeah.
anywhere else, or is it like kind of the same temperature all day long? What does that feel like?
So typically you would have either a landing or a zodiac. Sometimes you would just do a zodiac cruise
Hmm.
around a particular harbor if there wasn't a space that was safe for a landing. Um, so I would just wear like I wore a base layer. If it was cold, I wore a tights, my base layer, and then my waterproof pants. The most important thing is waterproof pants because you may have a wet
Mm.
most of them actually are wet landings where you're putting your legs off the zodiac
Hmm.
into a little bit of water, but this much. That's why you wear
Right.
waterproof pants. And you have the boots are high, so I never got wet. And then you walk up onto the beach or the rocks or the whatever. And again, all the naturals. We had 11 naturalists on board the
Oh
ship
my
teaching
gosh.
us
Wow.
about where we were going. And they're there at the landings helping you and they're telling you what you can see, what to expect,
Hmm.
where to stay away from, be careful of this. You have to stay away from the wildlife like 15 feet, unless,
Mhm.
of course, they're coming towards you. And you also don't want to move quickly because if you're backing away from a penguin, you might have a penguin behind you.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to always kind of like look around and be aware of where you are. And we would make a landing and you could see these like lines going up a mountain and they were penguin highways and they were how the penguins
Wow.
get up to like their breeding area or
A
wherever they may
penguin
be going.
highway.
And they
Oh
were
my
just
god.
waddling up the highway and oh my, I took a ton of pictures. I can't wait to show you guys some of
Mhm.
my pictures and
I
I will.
cannot wait.
Penguin highways were amazing. And a lot of them were sitting on eggs when we were there. It was a little bit late in the season
Mm.
because they
Mhm.
had some late snow later than normal. We should have seen chicks, but we saw thousands of penguins, thousands on this trip, and that was a big thing for me. I'm wearing my penguin sweater today for you
Right.
guys.
I love it.
Um, and for my daughter, we're big animal lovers, so to see the penguins, to see the seals, and to see the whales, it was crazy. Like we would just be in our stateroom, and we had a veranda, which I didn't think I was ever going to use in Antarctica. We used it all the time.
Mhm.
So pretty to be out
Oh my
there.
gosh.
And you would stand there and all of a sudden you would hear the poof, and there was a whale. And it was like a humpback whale.
What?
And then you would see like more than one.
Mhm.
We have the opportunity to do a kayak trip on this expedition. We ourselves didn't do it, but many of the guests did a kayak trip. And it's the only thing that's kind of like an additional cost that you pay for if you want to do. And we just thought, oh, we're going to see everything. But the people who did the kayak trip said they loved it. And I think if I went again, I would do the kayak trip.
Mhm.
There was at one point a group of maybe like 10 kayakers surrounded by humpback whale.
Oh my
They got
gosh.
Oh my
these
gosh.
pictures are unbelievable of what they got. Yeah.
That's insane.
I just
how
can't even imagine this. Like,
how could you not want to kayak
gosh.
in Antarctica waters? That's just, I mean, that's amazing to me. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about safety. And obviously, any trip like this, if you're a doofus, you can get into any trouble you want to get into if you're really that person. So use common sense on anything you do, whether you're going to Antarctica or Cancun or Disney World, obviously. But I'm assuming that Disney covers just about every base you can think of in terms of safety. They're not going to let you do anything that might even smidgingly jeopardize your health or the health of the environment or anything like that.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Fair assessment?
It's fair assessment. That's why we're in briefings once or twice a day on board the ship. So they're going to tell you what to expect, how to be careful. Even all the folks at Penant and the Naturals, they're telling you when you get into a Zodiac, how you hold on, how you hold the rope. They went over everything, and they are super careful, and they're so helpful getting you on and off. There were some people that may have had a little bit of mobility issues, and they were so helpful getting them on and off the Zodiacs. I mean, the lady that had it was her 7th continent, the grandma, she had a cane and she was able to use it on the Zodiac, on the landings. Like,
oh, wow.
They made sure. A lot of people bring walking sticks. We had one and it was helpful. I actually only used it on one location that was very icy and snowy, and because most weren't. But I do suggest everyone do that. There are some packing lists available online that kind of tell you what to bring on an Antarctica expedition. And I bought everything on the list. So I was completely ready. And I feel like I'm so ready now. I want to do the Arctic. I'm like, I have everything.
Like, I mean, that follows really. You've done the South now. I want to go to the North.
I know.
Also, I was just thinking how great this is for you and your daughter to go together, a mother-daughter trip. And as she gets older and she gets more dramatic because she's a teenager and she starts yelling at you and you're like, I took you to Antarctica. I win this argument. Clean your room.
I've already used that. She's like, what about spring break? Where are we going? I'm like, remember we just got back from Antarctica?
I'm not sure that much is going to really compare. It's like, well,
like,
Blizzard Beach is
where
cool.
do you go from there?
Typhoon Lagoon is cool and all, but
you just look around and you think, I can't believe this is our planet and how blessed we are that this is our planet.
Right.
Like the beauty that's out there. And somebody said, like, what is it like? And it's unlike what I thought it was going to be, because I just pictured flat snow. Like you think of when you think of the pole. The pole is flat snow. These mountains on the peninsula are unbelievable. And I told someone it's kind of like if you take the Alps and the Caribbean and you mold them together, because I had no idea this water was so blue. It's so pretty.
I mean, like if you're watching on YouTube, like, dude, it's blue under that glacier. That's like, what?
The glaciers are crazy amazing. And what you see at the top of a glacier, it's actually like 4 times as big underneath the water. And that we would just be sailing through different channels or harbors, and you would pass a glacier and there'd be like 2 penguins just sitting there. Like, oh my God, you have the greatest life to live here.
And the penguins are like, more tourists.
You just picture what their conversations are.
And the neat thing is, a lot of people will say, well, where did you go and where did you stop? And, I could go through the list of places where we stopped. But the crazy thing is, it could be completely different on the next trip. So the next Adventures by Disney trip is actually happening next month in February. They could be stopping somewhere completely different. It all depends on the weather.
Interesting.
And the naturalist and the captain decide the day before where you're going, and maybe even the day of. Like there was a time when we went into a harbor and they're like, nope, too much ice. And he'll make an announcement. Hi, it's your captain, who is the greatest captain in the world. And he'll say, we're not going to stop at this harbor. I'm going to check out the next harbor. And you're like, I can't, this is unbelievable. It is so cool. And, you would just watch everything go by and you would see the penguins were porpoising. I mean, they were just jumping in the water. They're way faster in the water than they are on land.
That would just be like, what to see that.
And seals. And you're like, oh my gosh. I just wanted to be outside the whole time because it is so beautiful.
And
I can just imagine sitting on the balcony or on the veranda looking over Antarctica. And I would totally do some sort of video where I'm putting stuff in the system, booking trips, because I'm like, Jen's making me work. She's making me do this, even though I'm in Antarctica. It's fine.
And
Yes,
you can because the Wi-Fi is all included. And it was
see,
great.
there you go. Jen's like, no excuse, no excuse.
no excuses, David.
So, and you mentioned thinking Antarctica was like just flat snow. Are there any other misconceptions maybe you or other people might have about Antarctica once you got there? You're like, oh, I don't think I even knew this, or I didn't realize this was this way.
I definitely I didn't realize about I knew that it was light a lot. I didn't realize to what extent. And it changes here it'll change by 2 minutes by day, like when sunrise, sunset. There it's 15 minutes. So it's big changes every day on when sunrise and sunset is. And I didn't realize how peaceful it is. There was one time we were on our Zodiac and our naturalist said to us, he said, I'm going to cut the engine and I'm going to sit down with you and we're going to be quiet for 2 minutes. And we did. It was nuts. You could hear the ice around you, cracking and falling. And the penguins are porpoising around you. And you're like, this is unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Now I want everyone to experience it because it is truly life changing and wow.
And
that's amazing.
I mean, just things never in my life would I ever have thought that I'm talking to somebody who has been to Antarctica. That's never oh, well, people don't go there. I mean, when you're a kid,
and
you
here's
know,
the thing, it's, and this is just for the listener. And we were trying to be very careful not to turn this into an actual sales pitch for Adventures by Disney, because yes, we do book Adventures by Disney.
Absolutely.
But Antarctica is one of those things holy crap, you go to Antarctica. This is incredible. And I know Marcy had a chance to go, but this is something that's available to anybody who wants to go. This isn't oh my gosh, you have to be a multi-trillionaire to do this. Nope. Don't. It's a little pricey, but any once in a lifetime adventure is going to be pricey. This isn't something we go to Disney World 3 times a year. We're going to try to go to Antarctica at least once a year for the next 5 years. You don't do that. I mean, you could. Well, I would be happy to send you, but this is something that, you look ahead to the future and say, you know what, we're going to start saving for a once in a lifetime family trip. In 3 years, we're going here, or in 1 year, we're going here, or whatever. And we can make this happen. I mean, I'm sitting here in Podunk, Alabama, Birmingham, looking at these pictures of Antarctica, going, I could send my neighbor to Antarctica next time they go if he really wanted to go. That's that we could do that. It's not a problem.
I mean, it's and these days, I think we know how much more important experiences are, and spending time with loved ones than ever before. I mean, I just think the past 3 years have shown us that, if nothing else. We have to cherish these times, and I just think it's so cool you got to do that and see penguins with Rory on a, do we call it a beach? A beach in Antarctica? Can we call it a beach?
We could just say the landing.
The landing.
Be, when you're on the landing. Yeah.
Yeah. On the landing.
Well, and let's just say somebody contacts Jenn and says, hey, Jenn, I want to go to, Hong Kong for a week. And Jenn might be like, okay, we can talk about this. I've never been, but we can figure this out. We can make this happen. Somebody comes to you in Antarctica, you might be like, okay, so we're going to try to plan this. The good thing about Adventures by Disney, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that the Adventures by Disney steps into this planning and says, hey, we're going to help you plan this too. We're going to help Jenn. We're going to work with Jenn on this to make sure that everything is buttoned up. So it's not just Jenn looking at Google going, okay, flights to Buenos Aires and flights to, okay, and we got to make sure we book you this, whatever. Disney has stepped in to say, all right, Jenn, we got this. Let's work together. We're going to make this happen. So it's seamless. It really is.
Having been on Adventures by Disney myself and different itineraries that, I've been on, river cruises, which actually rabbit trail. So I had 6 adventure guides on my river cruise. How many adventure guides did you have on this one?
We had 5, and then the 11 naturalists.
And,
so they worked hand in hand. The naturalists had so much information for us, and the adventure guides were there for fun and safe. They were there for everything, fun and safety and education, but they definitely brought the fun, which was wonderful because we still had the junior adventure nights. They had 3 junior adventure nights where the junior adventures kids get to meet with the adventure guys who they think are rock stars, and they are,
because they are rock stars.
But the kids look up to these adventure guides so much. It's so cool. So they have some activities just for the junior adventures, which is great. Our trip, we had 12 kids from under 18, and then the trip before us, which was right before us, they had 40 because it was over Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
So there were a lot. And I was surprised at how many people brought their teenager because it was a graduate, for seniors, it was their graduation gift. And I'm thinking, wow, I think my parents got me a TV and sent me off to college.
Graduation present. That's a great tip.
Some kids get in.
Luggage.
Yeah. And you mentioned like, it's not, for the wealthy. It's not for like the 1% up there. There were two sisters on the trip and they were in their 60s. They had both just retired and they worked in the service industry. They had just saved their money. And this is like, has been a bucket list. I mean, they're going to do other trips as well.
Right.
But this was the thing that they've talked about doing for years, to see them also make their landings and what their experiences were. And, we would get back onto the ship and it would be tea time in the afternoon. And lots of people were hanging in the lounge, and I know you would say like, did you see this? And did you see this? And people would be like, oh my gosh, whale was right in front of our Zodiac right before the landing. And it was so fun to compare notes with everyone and to get to know people from all over. There was even one guest who had done the same trip last year to Antarctica. And I was like, I wonder, especially like 1 year. And I asked her, I'm like, so comparing the trips, like right at the end of the trip, I said to her, what did you think? And she said, do you know, we only made one landing that was in the same place. She's like, it was a completely different trip.
Wow. So I guess now you have to go back.
Mind blown. Literally mind blown. I never would have thought
go
about
back
that.
tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you would do differently or take with you or leave it behind, whatever, if you went back on the next trip? I mean, anything that you would know now that you didn't know the first time?
Yeah. So I read a lot before I went, and people were like, don't bring sweaters. It's warm on board the ships. And they mean like a bunch of different ships that go to Antarctica.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm always kind of chilly. No, leave your sweaters at home. You don't need your sweaters. And it was very comfortable on the ship. We had 3 pajama days. So when you're going through the Drake Passage, both coming and going, pretty much PJ days.
Yeah.
And there's movies all day in the theater that are Disney movies, Marvel movies, like so fun.
Oh my gosh.
And they do so many fun activities. You can like do a craft where Rory got to make a penguin made out of yarn. And on those days, they make sure that there's a lot of things to keep you busy. And one of the things that they did was cool. Like they give everybody water bottles. So you don't need to worry about, there's no bottled water. Like, again, it's all about the environment. Putting Disney stickers on your water bottle to customize it. And then the parkas, like Penant uses their own parkas that they give to each guest. Well, this was Byron, the adventure guide, thought of this whole idea to do customized Disney patches you could iron on your parka. So that was an activity one day that was a huge hit, to customize your parka.
I love
to
it.
Disney. He's brilliant and so much fun. And they're like, you're always thinking like, oh my gosh, what's next? And it was always something to do, which was so fun. And there was entertainment on board. There were some dancers on board. One of the most fun nights was karaoke night. And like some of the crew, even like Sergey from, I don't know where he was, Russia, he gets on stage and does karaoke with all the guests. Like,
oh my
so
gosh.
fun. The captain is so engaged. His, we called him Captain Fab. I think his real name was Captain Fabrizio something, but he jumped in the pool on the last celebration, on the last night with everyone. He had so much fun. We did a New Year's Eve party. He was there. We walked on board the ship and he was wearing Mickey hands.
Oh my gosh.
And Mickey ears, like two, and this is a French company who has really welcomed Adventures by Disney with open arms. I know, it was so fun. Our stateroom was gorgeous.
And you're talking, there's a pool. There's a pool in Antarctica for people swimming.
People were in it the whole time. It's quite warm. It's more like a big hot tub.
Okay.
Because it's warm. Like a lot of people are like, oh, are you really going to go swimming? Everyone went swimming. Yeah. And many people just jumped in with their clothes on, which was fun too. Yeah. We had a bunch of celebrations. We had an Antarctica party. That was at the end of the cruise.
Fun.
I survived the Drake Passage in the beginning of the cruise. Like there was always a reason for a party. There was a glow dance party. Like every night there was a reason for a party, which was fun.
That's amazing.
I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. You throw on the words on the end in Antarctica. It doesn't matter. I'm playing bingo in Antarctica. I'm, washing my underwear in Antarctica. It doesn't matter. It's awesome when you throw those 2 words on there.
And we did all that.
I'm working on my taxes and filing receipts in Antarctica.
I don't want to do that there.
That's even better.
I don't know about that one, but I did hand wash clothes in my sink. I did send some clothes out because you can do that too, and it was very reasonable. And we did play bingo. So look at that, Dave. You weren't even with me. You knew we did all
we're
that
in tune.
stuff.
Marcy and I are in tune, Jen.
Just read her mind. I guess so.
We're BFFs. That's all I can say. So
we are.
So really, again, for the listeners out there, this is a trip that it's not out of reach. This is something that, our family would probably have to save a couple of years for, but it would be worth the savings because, again, once in a lifetime trip. We would go to Antarctica, but we would not probably go back in the next, I don't know, however many years. So again, this is not like going to Disney World once or twice or 3 times a year. But this. I like to say this when I look at like our backgrounds on YouTube here. You can be the postcard. These are pictures that you see on a brochure or whatever. You can be the person in the postcard to do something like this. It's very possible. Or if you're like, you know what, that sounds cool, but that's just not my style. I have no interest in that. Again, all over the world. Like, honestly, I don't have a real preference about going to China, and I don't really care about going to maybe India or even France. I just never really appealed to me. If you gave me a trip, Jen, if you sent me on an agency trip, I would go.
I love France.
I would go.
I'd go back.
But like Australia,
I haven't been to the other two, so I don't know.
I want to go to Antarctica. I want to go to Japan. I want to go to some of these other trips. Like these are places I really want to visit. Really, really cool. And so there's something for everybody here. And of course, if you're out there going, all right, you know what? I want to find a little bit more about this. That, of course, is uponastartravel.com. There you go.
And we'll help you out. Just contact us, shoot us a quick message, and just say, hey, I'm interested in such and such, Adventures by Disney. And I'll tell you what, mention this podcast. And I will, but you have to mention this episode, and we will do for Antarctica, because it's Antarctica, I'll do up to a $200 gift card per reservation. Nice. And if it's any other destination, we'll do up to $150 gift card. So it'll be just to help you go experience these amazing locations, because I am a convert. Let me just tell you, Brady talks still about the trips we've been on. And he's like, well, I want to go to Norway. And I'm like, oh, well, we could plan, like, let me start looking good. No, I want to do the Adventures by Disney. You guys think I'm joking. I'm actually not. You can go at him and he will tell you that's what he requests from me.
Norway.
Well, and if you want to go to Antarctica and you mention this episode and you call me to book, I will personally send you a $100 Amazon gift card. You can start purchasing some of these things you need, and this is just from me, not from the agency. This is a me thing.
Well,
I will send you $100 Amazon gift card out of my pocket that you can purchase some of these things you need, your whatever supplies you need before you go. Because I would love this. I would love to work with somebody on this trip. I got to send somebody on an African safari last year, which was so cool. And now let's send you to the other side of the world, to Antarctica.
I love it. You guys are great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking like, I had a family over Christmas, and this is Christmas week, and we know the Christmas week at Disney can be a little pricey. For their family of 5, 2 nights in the Star Cruiser, and they spent 3 days at Boardwalk. Looking online, that's a fairly expensive trip. Antarctica is going to be somewhere in that range too. But I mean, I'm not going to give you the quotes on prices. Obviously, so many
subject to change, et cetera.
Just give us a call. And stuff. But if you're going to spend that much money on Christmas week at Boardwalk and Star Cruiser,
which are both great,
exactly. Let's look ahead. So, So Marcy, this is fantastic. I'm so glad you got to come on the podcast. This is great, and thank you for being a part of the podcast. Do you want people to follow you on social media? I'm asking that question with a pause so I can take it out if you don't want me to.
I'm not really on beyond like my personal. I need to come up with like some Disney social media, but right now, follow David Dollar and Jenn Novotny.
And Jen, following Marcy's directions, where can we find you online?
You can find me at Upon a Star Jen, and my personal Instagram is at Jen_Novotny.
Which, of course, you will have either been on a trip, you're on a trip,
or I'm on a trip, or something
trip,
like that.
When this podcast airs, find me on Instagram at @TheMagicOnADollar, and of course, I'm shooting for 1,000 Instagram followers. I'm getting so close to there. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm like a couple hundred away, but I'm getting there. Facebook, of course, you can find me at Disney on a Dollar and Magic on a Dollar, and Disney on a Dollar. Self-humble brag, I'm getting close to 10,000 followers there. So I'm so excited about that, by the way. So it's slowly but surely building, which I'm really excited. And of course, again, like Jen, I will either have been on my trip, am on my trip, or am going on my trip. When you hear this episode, it just depends on when it drops. So that's it for the Main Street Electrical Podcast. Marcy, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thanks for having me.
When you go back to Antarctica or the North Pole, we'll definitely have you on again. Matter of fact, you need to broadcast from there. That would be
Oh my
super cool.
gosh.
That would be amazing. We'll discuss. We'll talk about
We'll
it.
work on that. I did walk Jen around the ship with my
She
WhatsApp.
did.
That's awesome.
So Jen was with me in
I
Antarctica.
was. It was amazing.
From my co-host Jen and for my grand boss Marcy, I'm Dave. And hey, don't forget, let's keep your Phoenicians nice and cold.
Thank you for listening to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the MSE Podcast, or visit our website at themsepodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe, and may all your wishes come true.